Now, I'm a huge fan of the superhero genre. From the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the CW's DC Arrowverse franchise, I have loved this genre for as long as I can remember. However, before there was Marvel and DC, there was a time when another groundbreaking team of heroes paved the way for the superhero genre. Before the Justice League and the Avengers, there was the Power Rangers, a team of 5 extraordinary teenagers summoned by a great wizard named Zordon to fight evil from outer space. I have loved Power Rangers for as long as I can remember. So much so to the point that I used to wear a Power Rangers backpack to school despite knowing that I was going to be made fun of at school for liking it. In fact, had I not been made fun of at school for liking Power Rangers, I would have never discovered my all-time favorite TV show, Supernatural, which was a show that I had deliberately sought out to watch because I was made fun of all the time at school for liking what my classmates perceived as a dumb kids show. For 30 years, the Power Rangers burst onto the small screen, bringing in a fresh, dynamic take on the superhero genre, representing individuals of all different types of cultural and racial backgrounds long before Marvel even did it. The series itself was adapted from a Japanese television series called Super Sentai, borrowing combat footage and creating original stories around that footage. In 1993, footage from the 16th installment of Super Sentai titled Kuryu Sentai Zyuranger was borrowed to create the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Power Rangers started about 8 years before I started, when Chaim Saban did a pilot for Bioman, thing that he bought, licensed, and tried to make it work, and nobody wanted it. And then I was brought in at that point to help develop it. One of the first things that we did is we took an episode of Zyuranger. We removed everything except the fighting spandex and the fighting monsters and the latex monsters in Tokyo, and threw a rock and roll score and some sound effects and played it for kids at a focus group in Denver. And they went crazy. They went completely nuts. So we knew we had something. Then what we're shooting, we just finished interesting enough, the first episode we completed was the pineapple episode, which was actually episode 13. And my daughter was having a show and tell. So I took the episode. It was still raw. I mean, it was just cut together, and I played it for her 3rd grade class. And the response was instantaneous and amazing. And we kind of decided that when we open, we'll probably open number 1 because we knew kids are going to like it, at least initially, and it'll probably flip between 1 and 2 for a couple of years. We'll get about 3 years out of the show. That's what we thought we were going to get.
During the show's first season, the show became an overnight sensation. However, due to Power Rangers being a non-union production, the actors who portrayed the Rangers themselves were not properly compensated and paid. After failed attempts to unionize the show, 3 of the original actors ended up leaving abruptly, resulting in a rushed recasting process. Unbeknownst to the producers, this would end up becoming the norm, resulting in a new cast change annually, following suit to their Japanese counterpart series, Super Sentai. I was curious, how did the producers react when this first happened?
Well, it was unexpected, first of all. We didn't anticipate doing that. The Japanese have a new cast every year. We weren't going to do that. But at the middle of the second season, when we ran out of contract and Walter and Austin and Twee left the show, suddenly we had to recast. And what the result of that recast was toy sales and the ratings went up. So the following year, when a couple of the other actors wanted to leave, we recast, and the ratings and the toy sales. So it just became evident that every time something was changed, it would cause a rise in ratings and would cause a rise in sales. So although the original Rangers were allowed to stay as long as they wanted in Falcon Skull, everybody else is a 1-year contract. Right. And that's where that started.
I know one thing that's, a little bit uncommon between Power Ranger actors is that not every actor who's been in Power Rangers has been a fan of the show, but I understand that you've been a huge fan of the franchise even before you got cast.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was 3 years old when Mighty Morphin came out. My mom hired a Power Ranger to be in my backyard for my birthday when I was a kid. I used to collect all the Megazords, and a buddy of mine who lived down the street would come over and spend the night, and we'd spend the night building all the Megazords, and we'd play the Super Nintendo video game where you fought with the Megazords against the monsters after Rita made them big. So, oh yeah, fan from the beginning.
I grew up watching Sentai because I grew up in Indonesia, and then coming to America, Power Rangers, Saban era, Disney era, all that stuff. Power Rangers is a very, very big process. The casting process involves 10,000s of people submitting just to even be able to audition. So I actually originally auditioned at first for Megaforce, which I got all the way to the end. I did the whole mix and match, which is like the end part of an audition process. Did not work out, but everything happens for a reason, is the way I see it. And then the year after, I came back for Dyna Charge. Same thing happened, got all the way to the end, and my brother ended up making it for that one. And then after that, I was actually kind of done, to be honest. During Ninja Steel, I had actually decided to just do acting. At that time, I had booked 2 pilots, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. I'm doing Disney, I'm doing CBS. They didn't end up getting picked up, and my brother actually was the one who was like, hey, bro, you should try out Power Rangers one more time. And I was like, bro, at this point, I had auditioned a total of at least 20 times inside the room, 3 different seasons. So I was like, if they want me, they'll let me know. But eventually he talked me into it, and at this point I was already like 2 weeks late, so I had to rush back into the audition process. I had to do the 2 different reads, and I had to get the 3-page audition tape done by the next day. But everything happens for a reason, and here we are.
We didn't know what to expect. I was 24, and I had maybe watched a little bit of the show, so I didn't know what to expect.
When I came into the show, there's some big shoes to be filled. We were filling some big shoes. I mean, come on, these guys are legendary. JDF and Catherine and these guys, like Nakia, like these guys are some big dogs, you know what I mean? There's a documentary called The Southgate Ranger. You should probably just watch that and you'll really understand. And you'll see that I'm just a human being. Yeah, Power Ranger, I get it, but like a human being that has had life happen to him. So I just didn't let me knock me down, although it did. I just got back up and keep pushing, man. And I was doing the right thing, and you know, now trying to help empower others, man. Because people sometimes are going through stuff, and they look at people like us and they think, oh, they have the perfect life, or, you know, what could Roger be possibly going through? You have no idea. Life happens to everyone, so it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it.
I was scared and intimidated to even be a Power Ranger. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the fandom is everything, so what if they don't like me, or what if I don't measure up? There was a lot. Like, am I good enough? There's lots of pressure, just in general. So back then, I feel like I was discovering myself. I hadn't even known how deep that was at the time. So yeah, it's all learning, and I think we're all growing even as of now. Like, it's a lot.
If you're gonna do anything, just do it with do it all in. You know, why don't do anything half just, and that's just the way I took it. So if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna put my all, my heart, be authentic, be true to it, and then that's one of the things I learned in my life. It's like, because I didn't know we were gonna be here 30-something years later. Apparently, we did something right, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And all I can remember is I just put my whole everything into this thing, and that's the one thing that I repeated. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So, be in excellence. Yeah, I'm a part of the show, but I still have to be out there and like be careful about what I do, and like one thing that I don't ever do. You'll never catch you having a drink in a picture, you know, because I'm still a role model. Kids are still watching this stuff. You know, I still have to show up like a leader in the world, you know? So, and I have to recognize that this vehicle was given to me. So how you do one thing is how you do everything, and always be in excellence.
Your time on Power Rangers is a little bizarre, because my understanding is that you were not that involved in the production of the show.
Yeah, they all of the footage of the character was filmed in one afternoon, one evening, in a warehouse in Studio City, and then they just recycled that footage throughout the life of the character.
Did you ever have a chance to voice Zordon himself?
I did. I was the voice of Zordon for the first 31 episodes of season 1. I think Zordon serves a very unique role as far as a mentor is concerned, because he is completely detached from the reality of where the Rangers are. If you look at other pop culture mentors for like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for example, Master Splinter. Splinter actually joins in the fight with the Turtles at some point. He helps defeat Shredder and all that at some point. Zordon can't do that. Zordon can only encourage and be very supportive and empathetic character. And I think that's a very important lesson for young children to learn, is to be able to stand up for themselves, be able to stand up for their friends, and not rely on an older, stronger person to always help them out. To learn to be tough on their own or tough together. And I think that's a very important thing and very unique to the character of Zordon.
It was fun for me because Taylor had some real meat to her. Sometimes as a blonde, blue-eyed and looking like this, you don't really get cast as characters with a lot of meat to them. You're either arm candy or you're just the mean person, period. You're the mean girl. And to actually be able to not only play an Air Force pilot, but be the first team leader, that was just pretty amazing.
We didn't really know who our characters were until about 2 weeks after we got casted. They were focused on our martial arts ability and training us to fight and to be beat up and to learn how to fall. And so they were developing the characters as we were doing that. So I think they were watching our personalities and kind of wrote us into the script, I feel like. Then we had our first table read, loved it. It was very exciting, very dark. I mean, my goodness, first episode, lots of stuff happened that's very soap opera-y, and it was exciting. Like, I was excited to be a part of something that was taking a turn for something more mature. Mm-hmm. So it was exciting to see where that was going to go, and I'm excited to have been a part of Time Force. That was such a cool season.
For general audiences here, what do you think is, one of the most empowering messages that you think that your season has if a general audience were to watch your season?
I think it is that everyone has a chance to choose their own destiny. That's the big message in that show, is everyone has a chance to make your own decisions, make your own choice, make your own life. I think there's a lot of prevailing themes in our show that stand out today, from treating people differently to bullying to racism and things like that it really touches upon. And I think that there's a lot of major life lessons to be learned when watching the show.
I went into the show as an actor knowing that I was going to become a Power Ranger, I think. They told me I was going to be, but then I spent the first 5 weeks filming in Ninja Ops, which is my kind of office, with a blank screen, a blank keyboard, and filming only there, while the other Power Rangers were out on location fighting, morphing, getting to beat up monsters, and I was going, when am I going to do that? So I was pretty frustrated, and I had my doubts as to whether or not I was actually going to become a Ranger. Sometimes, even though you're working at something, you don't get the reward straight away. It's not like gradual steps. Sometimes it's just nothing, and then one day it's just bam, you're there. And that's what I bring to my life work now. That's what happened with Cam, right? It was nothing, and suddenly he was a Green Ranger. I think that's really powerful because people don't understand that. They expect these incremental changes. Why am I not getting somewhere? Sometimes you stretch the elastic band, and then finally it breaks.
I wasn't really interested in what I'd seen on camera before, right? Not that there was anything wrong with it, but I was like, it's probably, it's not really my style, sort of thing. And then I remember the conversation with the agent, and they were saying at the time, no, they're really going for something different here. The show may not continue, so they're going to really go balls to the wall, is the saying. So it's definitely worth your time. Look at his character. And I was like, whoa, this is very different.
So when you were cast as Dylan, there's a lot of obscurity with his, with his past, and also kind of struggles with like identity, like who am I? Were there things about playing Dylan that really stood out to you, in regard to the character, along with the storyline that you were given?
Yeah, I really liked that it was almost like a reset. Obviously, he knew he had been through some trauma or what have you, but everything was foggy. So all this backstory bullshit that actors like to do, right? I couldn't do it. So I was like, this is cool. It's like day dot, and all he knows is this quite traumatic memory. And I think he's a good guy at heart, right? So that's why he's cheeky. He doesn't think that, red, yellow, and blue spandex makes any sense, because it doesn't.
Because nothing says covert like bright red, yellow, and blue spandex.
That is not spandex. The material is a self-assembling nanofiber formed with an intercellular shape memory alloy.
My mistake. Now, is that machine washable or strictly dry clean only?
But yeah, for me, the fascinating part was it was a complete reset, a blank slate kind of thing. So you're right, you still sweaty?
Oh yeah, no, it's a...
Vengeance, man, Vengeance.
Yeah,
it's bad.
What was it like when you kind of heard, obviously it's ironic to know that a show that promotes nonviolence had violence in it, and had parents complaining about the show is too violent.
But critics point to the violence, and they say this is a bad message for children, no matter how the producers try to package it.
If you're in the right, it's okay to use weapons, it's okay to use force, it's okay to hurt, to maim, to kill. And that's a pretty sad message to be giving children.
At the end of every show, there's a public service announcement that says to kids, all right, this is real, and this is not.
Like, how did you kind of navigate around that, though? I mean, obviously, there was no question that when parents would see the episodes, there is fighting in that. So kind of like, what was your reaction when all of that was happening?
One of the things that Haim had me do is there was an election happening at the time, and Congress had decided that we were too violent, and they were threatening to censor Power Rangers, which constitutionally I don't know how they could do that. So I was tasked with making a video for Hillary Clinton, because she had come out against Power Rangers at that point, just to kind of show her that she's wrong, because they want, and my boss was like holding his check for Al Gore. You're gonna make my show bad, I'm not gonna give you the check, that sort of thing. So I found a report in there that John Stossel from ABC News had done, where he had set out to butcher the show and ended up at the end going, no, that's actually a good thing, because although kids were jumping around and kicking down stuff, they weren't kicking each other. We were teaching nonviolence. That doesn't mean we weren't teaching jumping around and playing karate, but we were teaching them not to hit each other. And so that's how I navigated around that, to be sure that we always had the intention correct.
There seems to be a misconception that when people are fans of Power Rangers, that it's just, quote unquote, a dumb kids show, that it's like, oh, there's no substance to it, there's no good storytelling to that. What would you say to people that would say they don't know Power Rangers, but they would kind of they would have that preconceived notion thinking that Power Rangers is nothing but pointless action, that there's no substance to it?
I would push back on that. I mean, Power Rangers teaches you about camaraderie, about friendship, about teamwork. Teach you a lot of things. It just does it in such a fun way you don't even know you're learning. So those people who say that, you haven't watched the show, obviously. So tune in.
I think they're very mistaken, because it has hit the hearts of many kids. Most of the stories, I would say 98% of the stories that I hear when fans come to my table is how Power Rangers encourage them to stand up to their bullies, encourage them to get into martial arts. We were inside of hospital rooms with them when they were having surgery. Power Rangers meant a lot to a lot of people, and I actually didn't recognize that when I was filming the show. So to hear these wonderful stories now, they're so heartwarming, and I've cried with fans. It's been an amazing blessing to be a part of this franchise.
Well, it can't be that dumb if it's, one of the longest running shows in the world, 30 seasons and still going in different forms. So, I mean, it's not for everyone, but nothing really is. So I think it's fun. And I feel like it's kind of weird, though, that we say, like, this is just for kids. It's more like when I think of a kids show, it's kid friendly, but it doesn't mean it's only for kids. It just means it's safe for kids to watch versus some other things potentially. But it's obviously open for adults to watch, too.
I think that's a very limited take, because yes, it is aimed at a younger audience, but it's the lessons that you take from the episodes that continue to inspire you throughout your life. And we've had so many people approach us over the years telling us how the show inspired them to do better in the world. They become EMTs, or they become doctors and nurses, or they serve in the armed forces. They become servants to their community, and I think that's because of the lessons they learned in Power Rangers. And so, yeah, it may be rated G with extra cheese, but that's the kind of thing that stays with you. That's the kind of positive reinforcement that follows you throughout your life. So, you may snigger at it and think of it as something simple and childish, but it stays with you.
I always it's kind of like a soap opera in a way, right? I mean, there's definitely a lot of dramatic and dramatic elements, but it also tackles a lot of deeper issues, and I think it's just an overall just great show. I mean, I can't really comment too much on the other seasons. I do know Mighty Morphin. I grew up with Mighty Morphin. It definitely had a different feel to it.
I think if people are saying that, you shouldn't really be listening to them. I think if you find joy in something as pure as this, that joy shouldn't be disturbed by other people calling things mean names. Like if you like it, you should like it. I don't think there's anything wrong with a kids show. It brings so much joy. There's so much diversity to it. Everyone who likes it is so wholesome, and the community is so great.
If you have that preconceived notion, if that's what you're thinking about, you haven't watched Power Rangers in Space. I mean, that's it. That's all I gotta I mean, that's why. Because Power Rangers in Space had a storyline. It was a little bit darker. It's got flavor, man. You know, go watch Space. Space is a little bit different. I feel it got a little bit more adulty, you know, like, and it got away from like the bubblegum, you know, kids, which is nothing wrong with it, but yeah, I would say that. Just they haven't seen Space. Space has got a great storyline.
I've heard that when Time Force came around, they really elevated. They knew that the kids that grew up with it are now growing up. So it's almost like it was growing with the time. You know, these kids were now having kids, and it's like we were adapting to the generations.
I would say the people that do have that opinion haven't seen our season, for example, or some of the other newer seasons, because they always relate it back to Mighty Morphin or some of the cringier seasons. But if they just give Beast Morphers a chance, it's 22 minutes, they can sit through it, and they can see that every episode, it's a lot more deeper. Especially in our season, we got family problems, you know, we got hiding stuff from family, we got relationship issues, how to overcome love, how to stay in love, how to fight for love, and how to also battle love. So I would say tell them to just give it a chance, sit there for about 22 minutes, put on Netflix, and I guarantee you it'll change their mind.
I think the thing about Power Rangers, the storylines could always be different, but the underlying themes of teamwork, you know, doing something bigger than yourself, serving the greater good kind of deal is kind of always an underlying theme, and that anyone could be a hero.
In my opinion, every season of Power Ranger is a whole show in itself. They just don't continue past the finale. But yeah, I think Power Rangers is a classic. Each season marks a timeline. It's like now that I'm here at the con, I see a lot of people who are fans, and you get to really see when they grew up. You know, it's almost like a zodiac. Yeah. Like if you were born in April, you were in Aries. But if you were born in the 90s, you would watch Saban era. If you were born in the 2000s, you would watch the Disney era, that kind of stuff. So for me, it was like, it fully is like a classic. It's a classic sitcom that grows with every year.
The bottom line is this is pretty basic stuff as far as black and white, as far as good and evil. And a kids show that is based in good and evil. It's that simple. And these kids were, the Power Rangers themselves were fighting evil. And we've been doing that from the beginning of time. It's basic story.
Obviously, people have different reasons for loving it, but what do you think was kind of the biggest draw to kids to watching the show?
Been thinking about this for years, actually. It's a combination of things. First of all, at the time, the main shows that were on were like Little Clowns of Happy Town and Smurfs, so that was one kind of show. And then X-Men, the animated series, were the other kind of show. So you had flawed heroes and pablum, and, you know, saccharine pablum, you know, for little kids. There was nothing in between. So we created a show that had characters who were straight-laced, yet they were cool. Mm-hmm. They were everybody is represented.
Having someone in a franchise as big as this that kids grow up with and people have grown up with for a long time as well. It's incredible to have that for people to see and just connect with, I think, is a massive thing. To see yourself on screen and relate to characters is a massive thing for people. So yeah, I feel very honored to be a part of this. From what I've heard, the feedback that I've gotten from people approaching me, there's only love from what I've seen.
And there wasn't anything live action like that. And the United States had never seen anything like this before, at least not in children's television. You know, it's evocative of you know, of Godzilla and Rodan and all that stuff, but they'd never seen anything like it. And at the time in history, it's just everything was just everything just lined up so that was exactly what the kids wanted at the time. And interestingly enough, what we ended up doing inadvertently was pretty much most of the people that fought in the first Gulf War watched Robotech, which was my first show. But most of the people that fought the second Gulf War were Power Ranger fans, and more than one of them came up to me and said, listen, I became a soldier because I wanted to fight for good.
One of the things I think Power Rangers fans do know that the production schedule was absolutely wild. There wasn't a big opportunity for whether it was you or the cast or the crew to really kind of soak in the success. But I know one of the stories that's very evident, and for those of you who don't know, there was an appearance in, I think it was 94 at Universal Studios that was massive.
Yeah, I wrote that actually. What I was tasked to do was we were supposed to present the Power Rangers as ambassadors to Dare America. And we were going to do it at Universal Studios. So the whole idea we were going to do, they had a thing called the Fievel Theater, which doesn't exist anymore. And we were going to do a quick intro. Well, we finished the final rehearsal the night before, and I got a call from the Universal office, from the studio office, and they said, so we've had 35,000 phone calls, so we're moving you to the amphitheater. The Universal Amphitheater at the time held 6,700 people. That doesn't exist. It's now Hogwarts. But it held like 6,700 people. So I had to go back the next morning at 4 in the morning, and restage the entire show and have the fire department come in and, okay the pyrotechnics we were using. And when I got there, there was about 1,000 people already in line. This is at 5 in the morning. By the time we ran our first show, which was for the press, there was so many people that the CHP shut down the freeway. There was a backup to downtown, 10-mile backup to downtown LA, and they had to shut the park down because they went to capacity by 9 a.m., by 9:30 a.m.
Unbelievable crowd.
And to turn a freeway into a parking lot.
A Power Ranger gridlock on the northbound Hollywood freeway.
Their mere presence backed up freeway traffic for 10 miles.
So 50,000 people showed up, of which 20,000 got to come in or 30,000 got to come in. We did 6 shows that day, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It was like being at a Beatles concert. People were crying and passing out. It was amazing.
Despite the initial phenomenon of Power Rangers in the late 1990s, a stigma started getting attached to the franchise as it went on, especially for those that were directly involved in the production of its episodes. Following the conclusion of the show's 10th season, Power Rangers Wild Force, Haim Saban lost the rights to the franchise when it was acquired by Disney. Being uninterested in continuing the franchise following the acquisition, Disney opted to cancel the show and only air reruns of episodes for syndication purposes. However, the production team involved convinced Disney to continue making the show, albeit on a smaller budget with fewer resources and a relocation to filming in New Zealand as opposed to the United States. As Disney's ownership of the franchise neared the end of its lifespan in 2009, Disney acquired Marvel. With a means now to appeal to the male demographic, Disney had set out to deliberately cancel the show, regardless of how well it was doing in toy sales and reception, with some testimony suggesting that Disney was embarrassed to even be affiliated with Power Rangers in the first place. Producers, writers, and actors involved in the production of the show were frequently looked down upon within the film industry for participating in such a franchise due to perceived poor writing and surface-level stories. As a fan of this franchise, I knew that this wasn't true, so I wanted to know, how did those involved during Disney's tenure of the franchise navigate around those challenges?
Well, I wanted to do something different. We were season 13, so that's a lot of years of a show. And, there's a lot of repeating themes all the time. So when Disney asked me if I wanted to do it, I said, yeah, but I want to just do something, a different version. And my main thing was that I didn't want to tell a story about kids that are just, gifted power and then suddenly, are the most amazing, fighters in the universe, like a Green Lantern thing. I wanted to tell a story about having to earn the power, and then once you had the power, having to, know how to respect that power. So that's why I came up with the idea of having an academy where you're trained and you go through levels. But I wanted them to be the B team because I wanted them to always be not the best and have to keep striving to be the best. But then we made the A squad turn out to be villains so that we could show that, this core group of the B team that was, B squad that was had the actual heart and really tried, that they were the best all along. So it's kind of the story of it's always in you. You just have to learn how to put it out to the world. One of my main goals was to make sure that it wasn't just surface level. I wanted to tell deeper stories, push it as far as Disney would, let us push it, because kids, I think everyone downplays what kids of intelligence and ability, but they understand everything. So it's don't just be ooh, bright colors, have some substance. Power Rangers touch so many people, and the amount of people that come up and say,
this franchise changed my life. It gave me direction. When I'm depressed, it gives me happiness and hope. It's like, I know firsthand, like when I finished SPD, I thought I was like king of the world. I was like, I just, did all these episodes and I went around Hollywood with my other story ideas, and I'm like, I just did 38 episodes of Power Rangers and I'm ready to do the next hit television show. And people, I would go into, Fox, into CBS, and they would literally be like, the cartoon? And I'm like, no, Power Rangers, the live action Saturday morning. And they're like, that's still on the air? Like, there's just zero respect, But I'm like, the show is as hard to make as Lost or 24. Like, we have giant explosions, we have casts of hundreds, we have, all this choreography and special effects, and it's like, that's a lot to handle. But you're right, the general public just views it as just this little kid fodder.
One of the things that I know it always breaks my heart about, your particular season is that, you guys were put on a awful time slot and there wasn't a lot of publicity around that. So obviously it's no question that when people think of Power Rangers, they don't think of something.
You put it nicely. You get to say Disney tried to bury it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll just say it right there. Disney tried to bury it. No question about it.
But it's like, not being Captain Positive here, but without breakdown and decay, there can be no rejuvenation. So if the series didn't get that bad, it's like we didn't have anywhere to go. It's like they might, if it was just keep being sort of medium, fine, but they let us cook because they didn't give a
Yeah.
And what happened? It saved the show pretty much.
For most people that know of the Power Rangers franchise, it's common knowledge of the general public knowing that Power Rangers is primarily meant to appease small children through the good nature of the heroes themselves. However, there is also a misconception that the antagonists of the franchise merely serve as a punching bag for the Power Rangers as surface-level villains with no substance, motives, or desires. To help provide a deeper perspective on this, I asked several actors who have played antagonists in the franchise on how they have approached their characters and what their ultimate takeaway was from those experiences.
You've played characters and villains that have shown a lot of depth to them, though. Kind of starting off with Ecliptor, what was it like playing him, though? I mean, he wasn't necessarily a villain that was just plain evil, Rangers defeat him. He had a backstory to him.
Yeah, he was kind of a father figure in a way to Astronema, too, for those of you who know the story. And it was kind of nice, he didn't just sit in pure, evil. There was sort of, honor within him, you know what I mean? There was, a certain amount of dignity that he still actually had. And that showed, I think, in the character and even in the storyline of how it was a shame that, spoiler, he got disintegrated at the end there. Yeah. But I think these characters have a lot of different levels to them, which is nice. One thing that the way I approach, because I play a lot of villains over the years. I've done about 500 characters in the last 29 years, and I'd say probably 200 of them were villains. And people often ask me about portraying a villain. Do I just play pure evil, or do I play? And I don't, because, I treat them like a regular character. I know that he had a sense that he was taken by his anger and resentment towards the Red Ranger, for example. Yeah. He had a vendetta against the Red Ranger, So he wasn't by any means perfect good guy in any way. He was a victim of his own desires to have revenge, What I think was cool about Ecliptor is that he had a self-awareness enough to create the distinction between knowing he had this vengeful side, but also being able to do these things that would be called good in some people's eyes.
When you first started playing Master Oregon, you kind of were told the story and the trajectory that his character was going to go on in the season. How did you feel about that, and what were kind of your thoughts about, playing Master Oregon in general?
Actually, from what I remember, you don't know exactly how the arc is going to go, so I didn't know a lot in advance. Just I knew some basic stuff. The original seed of is, I think it's at least I approached it this way, that he had a good heart. So there's a potential to be a good person. It's just circumstances turn that. Most of the time when they write villains, they kind of stay on the surface. It's just kind of a one level thing. But this shows, at least it gives a possibility for nuances. I'm sure some people have a preconceived notion about the Power Rangers. Oh, it's just for the kids and stuff like that. But I think creating these kind of characters with complicated, so to say, lives, I think it, broadens. It could broaden the audience because it goes. I think it goes beyond just fights and chase and explosions and stuff. But this kind of writing, I think, allows for more broader audience, and I think it's good.
Even alongside the villains from Power Rangers, the franchise also had its fair share of strong anti-heroes, one of my favorites being from the show's 7th season, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, a season that featured a strong anti-hero named the Magna Defender, a character who was good by nature, but motivated by grief and vengeance following the death of his son, willing to destroy anything that came across his path, even if it meant that other people got hurt, so long that he gets his revenge on those who have wronged him. Curious on his perception of what the role was like from a voiceover perspective, I asked his actor on what his takeaway was on the character when he first played him.
I thought this was really good when I did it, but I wanted to see, is it as good as I thought it was? And, my God, when you're crying at the end of your own performance and, completely forgetting that it's me. I mean, I felt like I was watching, like a movie. And then, sitting there in my living room crying, that's pretty weird. I mean, that's weird. That's a strange place to be. It was not only one of the most demanding roles that I've ever played, but it was probably one of the most demanding acting roles I've ever gotten anywhere near. And I have to credit the writing. The writing was magnificent. You're pulling for a good guy who does bad stuff to get what he has to get. And when a son and family is involved, stuff gets real. But it was one of the best, I think it was one of the best, if not the best pieces of writing in the whole series. And that storyline in Lost Galaxy was not to be believed.
So have there been any particular fan interactions that you found that really touched your heart? Obviously there are people.
Every single one. Every person that I meet is a reflection of myself. That's the way that I see it. It's like, bro, I've been on that side. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's every time I can remind somebody why Power Rangers is amazing makes me feel awesome.
Well, it's interesting. So Power Morphicon, I tend to have more adult fans or older fans come to me versus other cons. It's more the kids. So this one, it's just kind of interesting, just maybe more adults come to Morphicon in general, but other cons, you're a ranger amongst a bunch of other types of guests that aren't just ranger actors. And so then the kids are brought there by the parents, where here the adults are coming because they're the ones who are fans themselves. So it's super cool just hearing how people have been inspired through things kind of indirectly just because of Power Rangers.
Well, I've had a number of people come up and say that Zordon scared them because he was a big blue head, and I understand that. But I've also had a lot of people that have, come from broken homes or were bullied on the playground as children, who, had that half hour every day that they could find comfort in the lessons of the show or the message that Zordon would give them. So over the years, I've heard so many stories of, people saying, thank you for saving my life. And it's always such a humbling experience to know that one little thing I did 31 years ago is continuing to touch people year after year after year.
I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts that a fan could give to us, is letting us know that we as human beings did something that helped them. Because we were just going to work. We didn't know. I've been acting for 39 years. I've never been told by any other fans who's asked me to sign something, you helped me through a hard time. You inspired me. You kept me going. And the fact that the fans get joy from seeing us now and had that experience where our season helped them, that means everything to Wild Horrors and to me. I feel very lucky. We're very lucky to have been part of something that helped so many people all over the planet.
Well, right here this weekend, I had something happen that I've never had happen to this degree. I don't know, and I don't know that I understand, what this show has done for people that are struggling, but apparently it's done something, because I've heard from too many people over the years how much this show helped them in that arena, which is pretty phenomenal. And one of the gentlemen came up yesterday. I mean, he's not a kid. He was in his 40s, and he said, I want to thank you because I was terribly abused from age 8 to 15, and that show is solely responsible for breaking me out of that nightmare that I was in. What more can you say to that? I mean, my God, whatever we were doing was somehow really helping people in dire situations.
Martial artist Jason David Frank, who is probably best known for being one of the stars of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, has died at the age of just 49. Frank played the Green Ranger on the 1990s TV show, which depicted 5 teenagers that were tasked with saving the Earth from evil. Now, although originally intended just to be a short-term role, Frank's character was so popular, in fact, that he was brought back permanently as the White Ranger and then made the leader of the team. While Frank's cause of death has not been confirmed at this point, some reports indicate that he may have taken his own life. He's survived by 4 children.
I am here with Sky Frank, the daughter of the legendary, and I mean legendary, Tommy Oliver in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, Power Rangers Dino Thunder. If you know Power Rangers, you know Jason David Frank, and you know Tommy Oliver. So Sky, how have you been enjoying the convention so far?
I love it. It's been very, very fun. I get to meet a lot of awesome people like yourself. It's been great. I love it.
You know, given your own recollection, what's the one thing you remember most about your father?
How loving that he was to all his fans, and how he tried to make everybody happy before himself. I think that's one thing that stood out about my dad. Every show he would do, he would make sure that he made everybody's day. I remember he got me my first karaoke machine, and he kick-started off my music journey with that karaoke machine he got me. So I was like around 8 years old, and that really made my whole childhood fun. My father's always supported my music. He always told me I was dope, and I was like the best freestyler in the world. Honestly, just the pain that I've been through in life made me who I am today as a person, as a woman, and as an artist. I feel like I took everything I've been through and I just put it in music. So for me, music was a way to cope with real life.
You know, during your time that you spent with him, did you ever notice any sort of challenges and struggles?
I feel like I've always noticed those struggles, because we all have them. Mental health is something that we don't talk about too often. That needs to be talked about a little more. But everybody, I feel like a lot of people struggle. A lot of people are suffering in silence, and I think that people need to start seeking help if they feel like that. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's been hard. That's all I gotta say. I've just been dealing, because I don't really know how I've been doing lately, you know? Again, mental health is not talked about enough. So everybody struggles. Everybody suffers in silence. Everybody has something they're going through. No matter how rich, how poor you are, we're all human. We all bleed the same, and we all have feelings. And my feelings are pretty valid. And I lost a father to suicide, so it deeply, deeply changed my life and deeply crushed me and broke my heart, absolutely broke my heart. And that's something I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life, so I'm just dealing with it. Hearing a lot of stories from the fans definitely helps me, because it just helps me remember how good of a person my father was. So it's a great feeling, definitely a great feeling.
And I know I certainly told you this earlier, though. I mean, I can certainly tell the audience here that I know that when I met your father, you know, there was a point where, you know, I wanted your father to give my brother a birthday shout out at a convention that he wasn't supposed to do that at. And I feel like, you know, and the fact that he actually went and did it, I think really is a testament to show
how good of a person he was. Yeah, he definitely was. And I feel like I got my dad's genes, you know. I feel like I got my dad's heart. I'm the same way. I'm just giving. I like making people's day. It makes me feel good. It's not, I don't do this for the money. I don't do this for anything but just to make the fans loved and feel appreciated and make them smile and give away stuff to make their day. I mean, that's why I do this.
I don't think it's lost on anybody living in this day and age that obviously there are people that struggle through many hardships in life, and a lot of people, they watch Power Rangers as a means to really cope through life challenges. For anyone out there, whether they're a current Power Rangers fan or a new Power Rangers fan, whether it's mental health challenges or a hard season of life, what would you like to say to people that are really in that state right now?
So I'm going to look at the camera when I say this. I met a few people this weekend that have been struggling with mental health, and God has you here for a reason. It is not for you to take your own life. He will decide when it is time for you to go. It was a time for you to be born, and we're all unfortunately going to die at one point, but you're here for a reason, and God has a purpose for you. And just ask Him and He'll show you. It hurts my heart when I hear of people giving up. And, obviously we know that one of my fellow castmates decided to take his own life. And so I've had many conversations with people about mental health and suicide, and fans that have thought about doing it and have actually tried but weren't successful. They weren't successful because it wasn't their time. And I just want to encourage you that if you are struggling with any kind of mental health, please seek help. Please talk to your friends, people that are supportive. We need a flock of real friends to be surrounded by. That's so important. So please don't take your own life into your own hands when it comes to that. So just know you have a purpose and you're here for a reason.
Whatever that destiny is for you, just have faith. Keep putting one foot forward in front of the other. Do the right thing when nobody's looking. It's the most important thing you can do. Always work on yourself. Nobody's perfect. As a matter of fact, I take pride in my superhero is being vulnerable. My vulnerability is my superhero. So I don't have a problem being vulnerable and talking from the heart and telling you that, hey, I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? And life hasn't been easy and simple, but guess what? We all can, whatever you're going through, we all can break through it. Whatever it is that you're going through in your life, we all can break through it. Just have faith and do good.
I would tell them to keep their head up, stay strong, stay positive, and keep fighting. And give them the courage to hopefully one day speak on how they truly feel, because maybe it can save a life.
Well, reach out. I think the sad part is that people think that others don't care or they don't think about them. But when anything happens to those people, right, when they're depressed and they feel lonely and they feel disconnected, it's always regretful for everyone else around them, because everyone else around them really do care. They just didn't know. And I think the simple fact of just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm not feeling so good, or, I'm feeling a bit down, things don't seem right now. I think it's okay. Everyone goes through that.
This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And again, so I've been through, like I said, a divorce in the public eye. I've had my own struggles. My mum passed away a couple of years ago. This too shall pass. It's not forever. I'm not saying, drown your sorrows or smoke your sorrows or eat your sorrows with sugar. This too shall pass.
I would say never be afraid or shy to ask for help. Because I feel like a lot of people struggle with whatever they're going through alone. They don't feel comfortable, they don't feel confident in confiding in someone or seeking for help if it's not family members or friends. There's hotlines all over the U.S., right? And everywhere. So I would say always ask for help. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared to ask for help, because someone out there wishes your well-being.
Hang in there. Things always get better, right? So it's the night is always darkest right before the sun comes up. So hang in there. Tomorrow's a new day, and things always will turn around.
Time really is it's everything. When we have our ups and our downs, you'd be surprised when you think it can't get any worse and you don't know how to get through the next moment. What a difference taking a breath and just taking a moment and telling yourself, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. I promise, having been through it, that next day you're gonna feel so much better. You're gonna be like, okay, it's not necessarily gonna go away, but life doesn't just go like this, and it doesn't go like this. There's ups and downs, and you're never gonna know what life could have been if you give up.
Each and every person has value, and it doesn't matter if someone else tells you that you don't. That's you know yourself. You have to know your value. You were put here for a purpose.
Look for the light. Find something around you in the environment that brings light into your life. Find a group of people that will lift you up rather than push you down. Try to find something around you that you can recharge your own batteries.
There is no one more special. Yeah, you're asking me questions, and I'm just an actor. I just say lines. I'm not more special. And each person can teach you something new. So you could teach someone who is bullying you how to be a better person. And they might have needed you to show them how to treat people better. Sorry, it's like a long-winded answer, but I just hate bullying. I hate people bullying. Most people try to hurt you because they're in pain. It normally has nothing to do with you. I have had a bully for 23 years of my life. Okay? 23 years. They're still bullying me to this day. To this day, doing things. And I just smile at them and I don't say bad things about them because they're obviously in a lot of pain.
If you're here, just period, you're already blessed. I mean, do you understand, like, out of trillions and trillions and trillions of, I think it's like 400 and something trillions of men and women trying to conceive, like, oh, there's that one little entity, sperm, whatever, that makes it, what, out of trillions, trillions, okay? And that's you, that's me, and that's that person. You have to understand that like, the odds of us being here, it's like massive. That alone is special. Second of all, if you live during these times, you're special. Because there's a different time in this world. So if you're here, understand that first and know that the power's within you. And you just have to believe in yourself.
What's that saying? It's like winning isn't forever, failure isn't fatal. So like even if you win something that you really want, like life is going the way you want, you know, all things come to an end, the good and the bad. So maybe you're in like a side of life that isn't as elevating as you'd like it to be, but every season passes, those good ones and the bad ones. So we can't control the circumstances, but we have more control over how we handle those circumstances than we think. You know, you put 5 people in the same situation and they'll all handle it differently, even though they're all going through the same thing. So the thing you can control is your attitude. And it's really hard to do, but like a muscle, you can train yourself to like, okay, what can I learn from this even though it's not going the way I want it to? And then of course, relying on family and friends. You know, for me, like I'm faith-based, so I pray all the time. I'm like, God, I can't do this on my own. So for me, it's just letting people know, like being vulnerable enough and helping others. And then when I need help, they're there to help me as well.
Breathe. I would say breathe. Breathe and focus on God's promise. Yeah, that's usually what gets me through. Sometimes life is hard, and not sometimes. A lot of times life is hard, and life is weird. But if it gets overwhelming, I think the gift that God gives us is breath. And when you feel that breath, you feel that peace that He is with you, you can remember God's promise. And if you remember God's promise, it'll excite you for life. Because I think the hardest part about life is when it does get heavy, it does get depressing. And when it gets like that, it's like, it's hard to get excited about things. But if you remember that God has a promise and God wants the best for you, it'll excite you. Because then you'll get excited about the things that He has told you about. If that kind of stuff excites you, breathe into it. Breathe into it and live into God's promise. Because it will bring you back to life.
So I think there's a misconception that praying means God's going to be a genie and like answer exactly what you said in the way you want it, and that's not how it is. So for instance, like I've prayed like, God, help me have more patience. And it's not like, bam, you now have more patience. All of a sudden my life puts me through a bunch of trials that if I handle them the proper way, I gain patience. It's like a video game, like my stats and patience level up through the trials that made me try my patience. Or if I pray, like, help me be more empathetic towards people, then all of a sudden, like, I'm in situations where people are, like, sharing their heart with me more, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, all of a sudden, my heart of stone is, like, becoming more caring, or whatever it is. So it's not thinking that, like, bam, this problem is just going to, like, blow up and disappear. It's God will walk with you through it, and give you the strength to get through it if you keep trusting him through it. And it's hard because sometimes it feels like it's not. Like even we were talking about, my wife going back to work or not because she has the more stable job because acting's not stable. We're praying about it. Like I would love to have a job that just gives me the ability for her to stay home if she wanted. Not that she even has to, or go part-time or something. And then all of a sudden I got offered this stunt coordinating job on a show out of nowhere. They just called me, didn't interview for it. It was a blessing. Like you could call it a coincidence or whatever, but I've had so many coincidences that like to me they're miracles, and it's God being like, just keep trusting. So
I have said this to many people here today. I have very little involvement with my success. I'm being so serious. Being a Power Ranger is God's gift to me. And if it wasn't for God, bro, what are the chances? Like I am all for hard work. You have a dream, you work hard for it. You have an aspiration, you push. Don't ever give up. That being said, none of it is guaranteed. You can push as hard as you want, none of it will ever happen. This only happened because God decided this storyline works for this world, so let's make it happen. That being said, I would say that God is the only reason why I can get back up, because he wanted this story to happen. God gave me the energy to say maybe I can do this. Maybe I am gonna try to act as crazy as I can, and even if they think I look stupid, whatever, because this is what God has in store for me. So I would say God has been my reviving factor. God is the breath in my lungs when I am out of breath.
The only way out is through. So you have to just go through it, own it. If you're going through it, it's because, I don't know whatever you believe in or whatever, but I believe in God. So if Jesus Christ is putting you through that moment, it's for a reason, because you can handle it. Be open, be vulnerable, talk to someone, like that helps a lot, communicating. Whatever you're going through, just go through it, be strong, have faith, talk to someone. Don't hide. That's the worst thing you can do is hide. Go do something for someone else. If you're feeling that way, go put your energy on someone else. Go feed up a hungry person. Go open the door for someone. Go say, hey, hi, you look amazing today, or whatever. Just, you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what people are going through, so just be nice and loving and authentic. Like Power Rangers and all this is cool, whatever. It's not whatever, but it's part of me. But I believe God gave me this vehicle for a reason, and I can use it in a bad way, or I can choose it in a positive way. And it's a big platform that he gave me, and I understand that, and I recognize it. So I choose to use it in a positive way. And guys, listen, you're not alone. Okay, if you're out there and you're going through something, there's been some dark times in my life, but there's this saying that this man goes through these treacherous waters. He says, Lord, why did you put me through these treacherous waters? He says, because your enemies can't swim. I'm sure you heard that. So whenever you're going through those treacherous waters, just understand that you're going through that for a reason, and the only way out is through. Talk about it.
Seek professional help. That would be my advice to them, is that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to get professional help from a psychiatrist and a therapist. It's okay. So I advise you guys to go do so and get the help that you need. But thank you for having me.
Sky Frank, thank you so much for speaking with me, and I'm so sorry about your loss, and I truly hope that, as time goes on, you'll slowly be able to heal, because you know what, tragedy is all around us. Hardships, hard seasons of life are so.
You are a good person.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yeah, I wish you all the best, Sky, and please take good care of yourself.
And take good care of yourself, and I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you so much.